Iluji used to be a regular dude, but one day he finds himself transformed into a dragon egg, and he's in the same situation as Doofenshmirtz because neither of his parents showed up for his birth. The first thing he sees is a screen, and he is informed by a voice in his head that his status window will display information about his abilities, which seems handy. But then Iluja realizes he should be concerned about the fact that he's hearing a voice in his head. The voice explains that she is part of the skill Divine Voice, and her job is to explain things involving his status and abilities. He asks if this world is a game of some kind, but the voice tells him she can't provide that information, since the Divine Voice skill is still only level 1. Iluja then asks if she can at least tell him where he is, but the voice once again refuses to answer any non-status related questions, and Iluja gets so frustrated that his egg ends up rolling off a cliff. By the time he stops, the system informs him that he just received a falling damage resistance ability, but it came at a cost because his HP went down by 1 point, and when you've only got 5 HP, that's a pretty big deal. Yue ends up rolling over to the edge of a lake, and there he sees his reflection for the first time in this world, and this is when he realizes that he is a literal egg. The system informs him that he is a dragon egg, an frank monster, and if his shell is somehow destroyed, he will die. Iluja is already upset about the situation, but to make things worse, the system tells him that dragon eggs are powerless and single-digit IQs, so rolling around is pretty much all he can do right now. They do have the potential to become a fearsome dragon once they hatch, but if you've ever watched Nat Geo Wild, you know the odds of surviving without turning into a protein snack are really low. Iluja starts freaking out, and all his shaking causes him to start rolling down the hill, but he ends up falling off another ledge, and his HP drops to 3. So he decides to stay put for the meantime, because he can't risk taking any more damage. By nightfall, Iluja's HP has finally regenerated, so it's safe for him to start moving again. He breaks into a slow roll across the floor, and as he does so, he starts thinking about what his life as an egg is going to be like. Being an egg may suck, but sooner or later he's going to hatch into a dragon and become extremely powerful, so he decides to make that his mission. However, as he is rolling through the forest, he ends up coming across another creature. He gets a little closer to take a look and finds out that this thing is called a dark worm, and according to its stat screen, it has the title of Egg Eater. Yeah, this isn't good. Iluja immediately starts rolling away for dear life, but at the speed the worm is chasing him, simply running away isn't going to be enough to get him out of this mess. The worm currently has 8 health points, which is more than Iluja's max health, so if he tries headbutting it, he's going to die first. Just then, he remembers that he received some fall damage resistance earlier today, so he decides to use that to his advantage and lures the worm over a nearby cliff before tricking it into jumping off with him. By the time they both hit the ground, Iluja is still in one piece thanks to his fall resistance and the fact that he landed on top of the worm's body. So the system informs him that he has received 12 experience points for successfully killing the worm. As a result, he has leveled up and met the requirements for evolution. So the system then shows him the evolution tree and asks which path he would like to take, the baby dragon tree or the little dragon tree. Iluja has no idea what the difference between the two is. So the system starts explaining to him that little dragons are a dwarf species of dragon, but while they may be small compared to other dragons, it can still grow to around the size of a bear, and it also has a deadly fire-breathing ability. In contrast, the baby dragon doesn't really have much going for it, aside from the fact that it has the potential to evolve into many different dragon species, but it does taste really good with soy sauce. So Iluja might end up in an episode of Delicious and Dungeon if he chooses that one. Iluja really isn't interested in becoming a meal, so the little dragon seems like the safest option to him. But just as he is about to choose, he hears a voice telling him that he needs to grow stronger and aim for the top. This voice was completely different from the system's voice, and he has no idea where it came from, but it seemed to be referencing his evolution choice.
The little dragon may be the safest choice right now, but the baby dragon has more potential for growth down the line. So, even if it may be a risky play, Iluja decides to go with the baby dragon evolution tree. After the evolution is complete, all his stats go up by a decent amount, but his HP wasn't fully regenerated, so he still needs to rest to restore it. Just then, Elusia's stomach begins to rumble and his eyes start wandering over to the worm's corpse because it looks really appetizing for some reason. Elusia assumes that this must be his baby dragon instinct at work because he would normally never consider eating a worm. But it's not like he has many options for food right now, so he decides to go for it. And it tastes just as bad as he thought it would. The next morning, Elusia wakes up after taking a nap, and his health has been fully restored. But he still has to deal with the fact that he's a baby dragon now. He has no idea why he was reincarnated into this world, who was responsible for it, or even who he was before he was reincarnated. He is fairly certain that he used to be human, but he can't remember any clear details of what his past life was like. Just then, Elusia notices a group of dark worms gathering behind him, and now that he's no longer an egg, he's able to fight back and slice them to bits one after the other. Killing all the worms earned him a ton of experience, so he was able to raise his level to 3 all in one go. This level jump allows him to access the baby fire breathing ability, so he uses it to kill even more worms until he eventually reaches level 7. He then continues farming worms until he cracks level 15. And with how quickly he has managed to level up, he can't wait to see what his next evolution will be. Just then, Yue's stomach begins to growl and he realizes that he's probably going to have to eat more of these worms if he wants to keep fighting at max strength. But these things are really gross. He wants to try eating something else instead. So he looks around and eventually spots some mushrooms on the ground that look pretty tasty. But then he's reminded why you never eat random forest mushrooms. Those things are riddled with poison and he barely managed to survive just now. But it did grant him a poison resistance skill, so it wasn't a complete waste of time. Elusia still doesn't want to eat the worms. So he decides to head out into the forest to look for some new prey. And a few minutes into his search, he spots a gray wolf. The wolf is bigger than he is, but stats are higher. So he decides to go after it and starts running alongside the wolf. He then fire punches it to death, and after inspecting the corpse, he realizes that he can use his flames to grow the meat. A few minutes later, Elusia is holding a perfectly cooked piece of wolf meat, and it's the best thing he has tasted ever since arriving in this world. He wants to get more of it, so he decides to start hunting wolves exclusively so he can eat their meat once he is done for the day. Thanks to all his hard work, by evening Elusia has reached level 20, and his next evolution is set to take place once he reaches level 25. However, the rate at which he levels up slows down the higher his level gets, so it won't be as easy going forward. On the bright side, since he has been using his baby breath so often, he has gotten pretty good at grilling meat, so his food situation is solved. Though he wishes he had someone to talk to besides the system since she never answers any of his important questions. Just then, Elusia hears voices coming from nearby in the forest, and he may not understand what is being said, but it means there are other people here. So, he goes to check it out. The voices were coming from a group of humans, and Elusia wanted to go talk to them, but that would be difficult to do as a dragon. Music. Individually, none of the humans are as strong as Elusia.
But they do have the numbers advantage, so exposing himself to them might be risky, but he doesn't want to be alone forever, so he decides to go out anyway. Unfortunately, he forgot about the fact that baby dragon meat tastes great with soy sauce, so the second the adventurers see him, they immediately attack for an easy meal. He tries to tell them he doesn't want to fight, but he can't speak their language. So, one of the humans slashes him across the chest, and the other uses a lightning spell to stun him. Elusia realizes this was a huge mistake, so he tries to run away, but the lightning has already made his legs go limp, so there's nothing he can do. The adventurers begin closing in to finish him off, but at the last second, the girl with them steps in to stop them because she feels bad for Elusia. The next time Elusia opens his eyes, he sees the girl healing his wounds, and he is sincerely grateful that she chose to defend him. The other two don't understand why she cares so much about a random dragon that could have been their meal for the night, but if she wants to keep it alive, they aren't going to stop her. Elusia takes a look at her stat screen and finds out that her name is Mia, and she is an Earth human. She's also using the last of her MP to heal him right now, and Elusia has already regained mobility in his legs, but he knows that Mia will likely leave once she realizes that he is healed, so he pretends to be hurt a little longer. Elusia still doesn't understand the words Maria is saying, but from listening to her, he received a skill called Greek language, and if he levels it up, then he will be able to understand her better. Just then, Alucia hears loud screams coming from further into the forest, and he realizes it must have been the other adventurers who were with Maria. For them to have screamed like that, there must be a ridiculously strong monster nearby. And if that's the case, there's no way they survive an encounter like that. Maria wants to go check on her friends, but Alucia grabs her coat to stop her because it's too dangerous, especially since she has no MP left. But Mia doesn't understand the warning he's trying to give and runs off regardless. Alucia may not know what kind of monster is out there, but he knows for a fact that none of the humans can beat it, so he needs to go save them. But his legs are still a little numb, so it's hard for him to move. By the time he finally makes it all the way over to the site of the screams, he is shocked to find a giant C-rank rock dragon, and it has over 200 HP, which is way higher than the 30 HP Alucia has. Normally, he would turn around and run away as fast as he can because he doesn't want to fight this thing. But then he sees Mia collapse on the floor, and he doesn't want to leave her behind. So it looks like he has no choice but to stand his ground. This was the end of Episode 1. Subscribe to not miss the next.